So, hello friends, welcome to my channel Lemon Coaching Center. So today I'm going to explain your 7th standard science chapter, diversity in living organism. So, have you ever thought of the multitude of life forms that surrounds us? What are the life forms that surrounds us? So each organism that we see is different from other, to it may be in lesser or greater extent. For an example, let's consider yourself and a friend. So you and your friend, you both are in same height? No. Does your nose looks exactly how your friend looks? It may be not same. Does your hand span the same as your friend's? Your hand will be same as your friend's? No. So, however, if we were to compare ourselves and our friends with a monkey, so what would we say? So obviously you and your friend will have to say a lot in common when you compare yourselves to monkey. But suppose we were to add a cow to comparison, we would then think that the monkey has a lot more common factor than the cow. In this activity, we had decided which characteristics were that are more important in forming some category. Hence, we were also deciding which characteristics could be ignored. Now think of all the different forms in which life occurs on Earth. Like, on one hand, you have to keep microscopic bacteria of a few micrometric in meter in size, while on the other hand you have to keep a blue whale and redwood trees that are in California that are approximate a size of 30 meters, and some pine trees. No, like some pine trees, they live for thousands of years, while some insects like mosquito, they die for a few days only. So life also ranges from colorless or even transparent worms to brightly colored birds and flowers, like this real life are compared. So this bewildering variety of life, these varieties of life that we see around us have evolved on the earth over a billion of years ago. It has evolved on the earth from billions of years it is living. However, we do not have more than a tiny fraction of this time to try. So we have less time to try this, to see this and understand all these living organisms. So we cannot look every organism one by one. It will take a huge time to see. Instead of that, what we will do means we will look for a similarity among that organism. Like you saw the similarity between you and your friend, and you, your friend and monkey, you saw similarities. Like that only now we will see the similarities between them, that organisms, so that we will know to which organism, which species it belongs to, like that. So which this similarity of organism that will allow us to put them into different classes, that will allow us to put that organism into different classes, and then we can study the different classes or groups easily. So in order to make the groups to study the variety of life forms, we have to first find. So first we need to decide what all the characteristics decide more fundamental differences in these organisms. So this would create the main broad groups of organisms. It would be big groups of organisms. Within these groups, smaller in this group of organisms that you make in that subgroups will be decided by less important characteristics. The organisms that have less characteristics will be added to the subgroup. Now, what is the basis of classification? What is the basic things you use for classification? Attempts at classifying living things into groups have been made since time immemorial. So Greek thinker who was Aristotle, he classified animals according to whether they live on land, in water or in the earth. In this he classified the organism. Aristotle classified the organism. So this is a very simple way of looking at life but misleading too. So this is a simple way because you will know. See, if you take one characteristics and if you compare it, so there will be 10 to 12 organisms that will have same characteristics. So you will learn that easily. But sometime if you it may be misleading too because the syllabus will be changing. Means some the scientist will be doing new experiments. So that time you will know more characteristics or that characteristics what you got that does not belongs to this organism you will know sometime. So now like example animals that live in sea like corals, whales, octopus, starfish, sharks. So these all you cannot immediately see that these are very different. You can see that these are very much different from each other in many other ways. In fact, the habitat is the only point they share in common. So their habitat is the only point they share in common. Means they live in the water. This is single habitat they share. So this is not an appropriate way of making the group because you cannot say only that they live in water. It means there is a big classification. Now you will learn how to classify. You should not classify like that. So we therefore need to decide which characteristics to be used as the basis for making the broadest division. So for making the division, which character should be used, for that we have to think. After thinking, we will have to pick the next set of characteristics. After thinking, you have to pick the next another sector of characteristics. Making some of the subgroups in this division. In this division, it is making a small subgroup, and this process of classification within each group can then continue using a new characteristics. You can continue using a new characteristics. So So before we go on learning these characteristics, we need to think what is characteristics. Like when we are trying to classify a group of organism, we need to find ways in which some of them are similar enough to be thought of together. In these ways, in fact, they are details of appearance or behavior. In other words, forms, function, they are some information. So what we mean by characteristics, it is a particular feature or it is some particular function of that organism. That most of us, like we have 5 fingers on each hand, it is also a characteristics of like mammal, for that it belongs. So that we can run, but that banana tree, the banana trees cannot. It is also a characteristic because we can learn these all comes a small characteristics. These are now to understand how some characteristics are decided. We have to be used more decided as being more fundamental than others. So being more fundamental than others, how we use the characteristics, we have to learn. Let us consider how a stone wall is built. So how you build a wall. The stone used will be having different shape, different size. The stones at the top of the wall would not influence the choice of stone that come below them. So the top of the wall, the stone size will be same, but if it will not come, we cannot compare that to the stone that we have put in the middle of that wall, that we have done size of the next layer. As you keep that, then you will say which size, which one we want to keep, like that only. The stone in the lowermost layer, they are like the characteristics. It is like characteristics that decide the broadest division among the living organism. It decides as what all the division should be happen in the living organism. Not the stone, that it is lacking, that stone is characteristics that tells you about how to divide the organisms, how to division of the organism. Like they are independent of any other characteristics in their effect or function. The characteristics in the next level would be dependent on previous one. So first characteristics what you use, on that only the next characteristics will be dependent and would decide the variety in the next level. That will, after the first characteristics, you will from that you will make second characteristics. That second characteristics, from that you will make third characteristics. In this way you can build up a whole hierarchy. You can build up the characteristics for all hierarchy of mutually related characteristics, means a group of characteristics you will make. Nowadays we look at many interrelated characteristics that are starting from the nature of the cell. In order to, we have to classify all the living organism. What are some, let us take some examples of such characteristics that are used for an hierarchical classification. So let us take this example and let us know about classification more and more. Now, so I will be taking a small break in middle, so it will be a little bit difficult to talk continuously on a single topic. So now let us come to the topic. So a eukaryotic cell has membrane bounded organelle. Eukaryotic cell has membrane bounded organelle. You don't think this. Eukaryotic cell you learned in your class. There you learned about it is having member bound organelle, including it has a nucleus in the center that allows all the cellular process that have to be carried out efficiently in the eukaryotic cell, in the eukaryotic cell. Therefore, organisms which do not have a clearly demarcated nucleus and other organelle would need to have their biochemical pathway. Means they maybe have different ways. Means that organism that does not have nucleus, that does not have organelles, organism that does not have organelles, it would come to the that does not have organelles and nucleus, it would not come to the eukaryotic cell. Organism that have nucleus, organelles, it will come to the eukaryotic cell. So this would have an effect on every aspect of cell design for the nuclear organism. So this nucleus will participate and it will make a multicellular organism, because they can take a specialized function, because this organism, it would take a specialized function, and therefore nucleus can be, it is a basic characteristics of classification, because nucleus, on the basic first nucleus you will take in every organism that is having nucleus. First you will take nucleus as an example, means you will see, right, it has nucleus like that only. So for a classification of every organism, in nucleus it is like basic characteristics. Next, do the cells occur singly or are they are grouped together? And do they live as a individual group? Like, see, every organisms have cells. Like our human body, it is one of group of cells. We say so. Say in some organisms that are having cells, every organism not have, but some organisms have cells. So like humans and animals like that. So cells that are grouped together, the cells that we group together to form a single organism, to form an organism like our human body take, we have a number of cell, countless number of cells. Okay, when we group them, by grouping of them only, we our leg is made, our hand is made, whole human body, our body is made because of grouping of that cell. We have grouped that cell. So in such a design, all cells, okay, we use different division of labor in this function. So this makes a very basic distinction in the body design of that organism. It makes changes in the body design of that organism. As a result, and like this, for a result for this, an amoeba and a worm, a earthworm, that they are very different in their body design. So amoeba and earthworm, we may have see, they both are different in their body design because they have different group of cell in them. The cells are grouped differently in their body. So they, and some are don't have cells. That's why. Okay. Next, do organisms produce their own food through the process of photosynthesis? So, as you know, in your first chapter, nutrition in plants, you learn photosynthesis only. It is done by plants. No other organism can do the photosynthesis. So, being able to produce one's own food versus, so we have to get food from outside would make very different body design. So there will be different body design. Like see, food made by us, see, means food we do something like that, it will be different. And food that we bring from outside, that would be very different body design, means very different of the organisms that perform photosynthesis, means plants. So what is the level of organization of their body? So what is its level of organization in its body or of the animals? How does the individual body develop and organize its different parts? And what are the specialized organs found for different function? So now we can see that even in these few questions that we have asked now, a hierarchy is developing. There is developing a hierarchy. Like the characteristics of body design used, the characteristics that we use of the body in the body design of the plants that we used for classification of plants. The characteristics that we used for classification of the plants will be different from those important for classifying animals. The characteristics that we use in classifying the plants, it will be not similar to the characteristics of the prepare their food. But like plants, see, plants they prepare their own food. If their animals or they acquire it, they acquire the food that are prepared by the plants. Therefore, these design features are maybe different. Like and we have skeleton. They may having skeletons. They may be having means they have stomach which helps them in digestion, but plants does not have anything like that. And skeleton, they are, for example, they are to be used to make subgroups. They, rather than making a broad groups, we can use it to make subgroups. Now you learned what is classification. Now, classification and evolution. See, all living things are identified and characterized on the basis of their body design, on the basis of the body design of that organism. We classify, means on their body design we identify and categorize the organism. Now some characteristics are like to make more wide-ranging changes. Some characteristics it make more changes in their body design than other, or some may not, like that. So there is a role of time in this as well. So in this there is a time also play a very important role. So once a certain body design comes into existence, once a body design for that organism comes to existence, it will shape the effects of all other subsequent design changes. So, like there is a role of time. So, their body design comes into existence, it will shape the effects of all other subsequent. So it will see the effects of its body design on all other body designs, all other organisms body design. And simply because it already exists, it thinks to change its body design, but it cannot because it is already exists. So in other words, characteristics that comes into existence. In the other words, we have to say means like characteristics that we find that comes to in existence, that comes in the books the students read into existence earlier, or like to be more basic than characteristics that have come into existence later. So the earlier characteristics that have come, they are like basics, means one line, a simple characteristics, they will be like that. So but now they are a little bit enlarged, they are a little bit big. This means that the classification of life forms will be closely related to their evolution. Means this gives an information that the classification of life every life forms, it will be related closely to the their evolution. Evolution means most life forms that we see today. So what is evolution? So most life forms that you see today that have been arisen by an changes in their body design that allows that organism to processing for a better survival in this nature. So Charles Darwin, who first discovered the idea of evolution in 1859 in his book The Origin of Species. So when we connect this idea of evolution to classification, we will find some groups of organisms. We find that some group of organisms which have ancient, that have old body design, that have not changed very much. So that have no changes much, but it has old body design. So we will also find we will also see that other group of organisms that have acquired their particular body designs. They have the most organisms they have got their body design that they want during these relative recently, and those in the first group or frequently referred that comes in the first group are frequently referred to as primitive or lower organism, while those that comes in the second group are called as advanced and higher organism. And in reality what we say means these terms are not quite correct. The terms we use are not quite correct since they do not properly relate to differences, because they do not properly relate it for differences. All that we can say is that some are older organisms, while some organisms are younger organisms. Since there is a possibility that that complexity in design will increase our evolutionary time, and it is not wrong to say that older organisms are simpler while younger organisms are more complex. It will be have more complexity. So biodiversity means it is a diversity of life forms. The biodiversity means diversity of life forms. So it is a word, the biodiversity, it is a commonly used word to refer the variety of life forms that you found in a particular region. There are very diverse life forms that are sharing the environment and are affected by each other too. As a result, a stable community of different species, you can see a stable community of different species come into existence. Humans, we have played their own part in recent times. We have played our own part in recent times in changing the balance of such communities. Of course, the diversity in such communities is sometimes affected by some of the particular characteristics like land, water, climate, and so on. But rough estimate what we have done, it says that there are about 10 million species on the plants we can find. And although we actually know only 1 or 2 million of them, we know only 1 or 2 million of them in these 10 million species. As the warm and humid tropical region are available in the earth between the Tropic of Saturn and the Tropic of Capricorn, there are rich in diversity of plant and animal life, and this is called the region of megadiversity of the biodiversity on the plant. More than half in the concentration in a few countries you can see, like in Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Mexico, Zaire, Madagascar, Australia, China, India, Indonesia, and Malaysia. Now the hierarchy of classification. So a biologist who is known as Ernest Haeckel, who was born in 1894, Robert Whittaker, who was born in 1969, and Carl Oes, who was born in 1977. He tried to classify all the living organisms into their categories, and these categories he called them these categories he further he called it as kingdoms. And these classification that Whitaker classification that Robert Whitaker has proposed, it has 5 kingdoms, that is Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. And these 5 kingdoms they we widely use in our further in your higher class also you will use, still you will learn more about them. And these groups are formed as they are formed on the basis of their cell structure. On the basis of the cell structure, these 5 kingdoms tell cell structure, mode, and source of nutrition, their body organization. On the basis of these things, these 5 groups, means these 5 groups are found by these basics. On these basics, these 5 groups are found. So the modified was who introduced by dividing the Monera into Archaebacteria or Archaea and Eubacteria or bacteria is also you use. So further classification is done by naming some of the subgroups in various levels that are given in the following schemes. You can see like kingdom in phylum, that is for animals, division, that is for plants, class, order, family, genus, species. These are the 5 divisions, the subdivisions. Thus, as you see, by separating organisms on the basis of their hierarchy of characteristics into smaller and smaller groups, as you classify these smaller organisms into smaller groups, smaller groups, you arrive to a basic unit of classification. For a basic unit of classification, you will know, and which is basic unit of classification is species. So, what organisms can be said to belong to the same species? A species including all organisms that are similar enough to breed and perpetuate is known as species. So the important characteristics of the 5 kingdom of Whitaker are also like this. First comes Monera. So these organisms, Monera, do not have a definite nucleus. It does not have definite nucleus or organelles, nor it have any of the multicellular body design. It does not have multicellular body designs also. In other hand, if you say they show diversity based on, they show their diversity based on many other characteristics. They show their diversity, like some of them have cell walls, while some of the species does not have cell walls. That comes under Monera. Of course, having or not having a cell wall, it is a very different effects. It made a very different effect on their body design. Here, from having or not having a cell wall in multicellular organism, if you have cell wall or not have cell wall, it makes some body design changes. And their mode of nutrition means from where they get nutrition in the nutrition in the group. It is can either by synthesizing their own food, means they are autotrophic, or getting the food from the environment. They may be heterotrophic, some are autotrophic, some are heterotrophic, we can say. And this Monera group, it includes some of the examples for Monera, or some of the species that comes under Monera or bacteria, blue-green algae or cyanobacteria and mycoplasma, as there are some of them are shown as examples. So Monera, here you can see the bacteria, it is Anbania. So these are the species that comes means these are species that comes under Monera. So kingdom Monera. So next is the protista. So next, protista. So protista, this is a group of that includes many kinds. This group protista, it includes many kinds of unicellular eukaryote organism. Some of these organisms use appendages like such as like a hair like cilia or whip like flagella for moving around. For moving they use these things. The mode through which they get nutrition is both autotrophic and heterotrophic. By both the autotrophic and heterotrophic they go get nutrition. Some of the example of unicellular algae, diatoms and protozoans are paramecium. See, they have hair-like structure, and amoeba and euglena. They are some of the example of protozoas. Next is fungi. So fungi, these are heterotrophic eukaryotic organisms. Some of them, first, fungi use decaying organic material. They use, means, as you see, if you see an animal in that is on the soil, after 1 week, if you see, it will be like decayed, means their body, their skin will be gone. This is because the fungi present in the air, it joins the body of the dead animal. The dead animal's body it joins, and what it does, it takes all the energy from that body and make it as decay, make it as only leaves the skeleton. It leaves only the skeleton, and this what the fungi takes the food from that decayed organic material. What it takes as food, it is known as saprotrope. And others require a living protoplasm of a host organism for food. So others require other fungi. Some other fungi they require a living protoplasm of a host organism. It take it as food, and they are called as parasites. Many of them have the capacity. Many of the fungi has capacity to become multicellular organism. In certain stages in their lives, they are able to become multicellular organisms. Fungi they have cell walls that are made up of tough complex sugar. Fungi have cell walls that are made up of tough complex sugar that is called as chitin or chitin you can say. And some of the examples for fungi are yeasts, molds and mushroom. Yeast, mold and mushroom, they are some of the example of fungi. And yeast is called as Saccharomyces. Penicillium, mold is called as Penicillium. Mushroom is called as Agaricus. So, some fungal species they live permanently mutually dependent relationship. They have some species in the fungi they live permanent mutually dependent relationship with blue-green algae. The fungi they have relationship with blue-green algae, or we can say it as cyanobacteria, blue-green algae as cyanobacteria. Such relationship of fungi with blue-green algae is called as symbiotic, and these symbiotic life forms that we get from the relationship between fungi and blue-green algae is called as lichens. So we have all seen lichens as the slow-growing large color patches that are on the bark of trees. You can see these legends. You have all seen during in your childhood or in any of the smaller when you are small you may have seen. Next is plantae. Plantae, they are multicellular eukaryotes. The plantae, they have cell walls. They are autotrophs and they use chlorophyll for photosynthesis. And all plants are included to this group plantae. And there are plants that comes whichever the plant may be. They all plants come to the same with this group. Means all plants come to plantae group. Since plants and animals are most visible forms of diversity of life around us, so plants and animals are very much visible form of diversity for us, because we see everyday plants, we see animals, we see every day. So we will also look at about the subgroups in the category of the plants in our section 7.4. Now let us just learn some basic thing about plant we have now learned. Next, we will learn about the subgroups on the planting in their category later in their next chapter. Means in 7.1 section we will learn. Next is Animalia. This Animalia, this a group, it includes all organisms. It includes all organisms which are organisms that are multicellular eukaryotes. The organisms that are multicellular eukaryote that does not have cell walls, organisms that are multicellular and it is eukaryotes, but it does not have any cell wall. And these animalia, they are heterotrophs. And again we will look about some subgroups of this animalia in section 7.5. Now, organisms, it is classified as prokaryote and eukaryote. In prokaryote you will see unicellular, that is monera. In eukaryote, multicellular and unicellular. In unicellular, protista comes under it. Multicellular, with cell wall and without cell wall. With cell wall is fungi. With cell wall is fungi and plantae. Fungi, it does not perform any photosynthesis. Plantae, it is able to perform some photosynthesis. In multicellular, that is without cell wall, animalia. Like this, you can see a chart also you can say. Now plantae, their classification, let us see. The first level of classification among the plants. Now we will learn about classification in that. It depends. The first classification among the plants depend on whether the plant body has well differentiated distinct parts. Whether it has distinct parts, well differentiated distinct parts it has or not. This is the first level of classification. The next level of classification is based on whether the different plant body has special tissues, with the different plant bodies that comes under after first level, does it has some special tissues for transportation of water and other substances, it has or not. Next is further classification. It look at the we'll look at the ability. What are the ability of the plant to bear the seeds, and whether the seeds is enclosed within the fruits, inside the fruits, or whether the seeds are there or not. By seeing these three things, we classify the plants. As you see, Thalophyta first. Plants that do not have well differentiated body design. The plants do not have well differentiated body designs. It comes under this Thalophyta group. The plants in this group, or these plants that comes under this group, they are commonly, we say them as algae. and these plants are predominantly aquatic, means you find it only in the hmm, of the examples are Spirochera, Ulotrix, Cladophora, Ulva, and Chara. So here you can see the examples for Thalophyta. Here you can see. Next is Bryophyta. So Bryophyta, these are called the amphibians of the plant kingdom. They are called as the amphibians of the plant kingdom, and the plant body is commonly differentiated to form stem and leaf-like structures. To form stem and leaf-like structure, the plant body is classified. However, there is no specialized tissue. There is no specialized tissue for the conduction of water and other substances from one part of the plant body to another. You cannot see any tissue available in the bryophyte for transport of water from one part to the another part. And some of the examples for bryophyta is moss and marchantia. Here you can see Ricea, marchantia, funaria. These are some of the common bryophytes you see. Next is pteridophyta. So in this group, the plant body is differentiated. In this pteridophyta, you will differentiate the plant body into roots, stem, leaves, and you will also have some specialized tissue for conduction of water. For conduction of water, you will have some specialized tissue and other substances for transport of water from one part of plant body to another. Some of the examples for pteridophyta is Marsilia, ferns, and horsetails. These are some of the examples for pteridophyta. We will see this in 7.7. So the reproductive organs of plants in all these three groups are very inconspicuous, and they are therefore called as cryptogams. So the reproductive organs in this is called as cryptogams, or those with hidden reproductive organs, or pteridophytes with hidden reproductive organs. On the other hand, plants with well differentiated reproductive parts that ultimately make seeds are called as pnerogamas. So seeds are the results of sexual reproduction process in the plants, and the seeds, they consist of embryo along with the stored food. The embryo has the stored food of these plants, which assist for the initial growth of the embryo during germination. And this group is further classified based on whether the seeds are naked or enclosed in fruits, and they are two groups, gymnosperm and angiosperm. Now, as you see, this is Marsilia, this is fern. That are two examples that they are given. Next is gymnosperms. This term is derived from the Greek word gymno. The Greek word gymno, that is means the naked, and sperma means the seed. So that is means gymnosperm, naked seeds or seed. So the plants of this group, the plant of this gymnosperm sperm group, they bear naked seeds. So the plants of this gymnosperm group, it bear naked seeds and are usually perennial, evergreen, and woody. So they are with the gymnosperm plants are evergreen, perennial, evergreen, and woody. Like example, pines and deodar. They are some of the example for gymnosperm. So gymnosperm like Pinus, Cycas, they are some of the example for gymnosperms. Next is angiosperm. So this word that is made from two Greek word angio, that is means covered, and sperma, that means seed. So angiosperm means covered seed. So there are also called flowering plants. So the angiosperm is also called as flowering plants. The seeds develop inside an ovary, which is modified. The seeds develop inside the ovary of that plant. Developed inside an ovary that is modified, and it is become a fruit. And plant embryos in seeds have structures. The plant embryos in seeds the plant embryo, it have a structure that is called cotyledons. And cotyledons are called seed leaves because in many instances they emerge and become green. So cotyledon is also called as seed leaves because in many cases it emerges and it becomes green when the seed gets germinated. The angiosperm, it is divided into two groups on the basis of the number of cotyledons that are present in their seeds. Plants with seed that have one cotyledon are called as monocotyledon or monocots. Plants with seeds having two cotyledon are called as dicots. Here you can see monocots. Here you can see dicot plant. So till here it is enough. So okay friends, I will explain the other topic of this chapter in my next video. So till here you understand, I think so. So okay friends, like the video, comment on my video, and subscribe my channel and coaching center for more video. I will see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Have a nice day. Bye my dear friends.